Maybe we'll see the new shop soon. So something we've been doing for the probably about the last 6 months with our intercooler and inlet piping kits is we've got our couplers with our logos on them, and for a customer we did a cool yellow. So it's not a color that we offer, but we can, if you guys have a specific engine bay color scheme you're going with, we could get you a special order of yellow, green, whichever you like, really, pink. So pretty cool. I get the question on occasion, but how many ply is our silicone coupler? It is a 3-ply. It does a fantastic job. 3-ply is great. You can see it's not too thin and it's not too thick. It makes it way easier to get one of these on, because we know the Z32 engine bay is pretty cramped and we need as much room as possible. So going with a thicker ply silicone coupler can make the install a little bit harder. We already don't have a ton of room to work with when we're going with bigger piping, so these are just right as far as the thickness and the ply go. All right guys, so here we have the radium catch can kit for the R35 GTR. These two here are for the breather. So on the inlet side of the turbos, this will go between the valve cover and each turbo inlet. We have the full kit, so the PCV side is already installed. That goes between the intake manifold and the PCV valve itself, which is located on the block on the R35s. The beautiful thing about it is we're going to contain all the blow-by, all the contamination into these cans. They have their own little dipstick. You can check, and you can also drain them, of course, and you can also open them up here, which makes it nice to service them. These two for the inlet side are going to be mounted in the front. The other one for the PCV, the engine side, that is going to be mounted by the brake master cylinder. So really nice. The swivel fittings are cool that they come with, so you can get that placement right where you need it to. So we'll get you some final shots of it installed and everything on that engine bay. The other thing we got going on for this GTR as well is we are going to be changing out the engine oil cooler with a Sissio Performance oil cooler. The biggest difference is that it's about ½ an inch thicker. The rest of it is about the same. The end tanks, are going to be a little different. These appear to be a cast or aluminum, maybe billet end tank, but a little more beefier. Should help a little bit more. The factory oil coolers in the GTRs are pretty decent. So you can see a factory unit here. So yeah, this bracket will hold both of the breather catch cans from Radium and mount it up towards the front of the engine. So it'll be a nice clean install. So going behind the scenes here, just showing you a little bit of kind of what we do. Not on all the builds, but on a lot of them. We'll go the extra mile. We'll get stuff powder coated. So this is for a very good customer, Alex, going with a simple, clean engine bay setup. We had contemplated doing like a sapphire blue color for these bits, but we're going to kind of keep it toned down, just clean, have the factory aluminum intake manifold look, and just the black satin finish on our powder coated parts. Came out really, really nice. Our powder coater does a fantastic job, and he takes extra care, especially on the valve covers, making sure not to allow any of the sand to get inside. So anytime you get powder coated stuff, especially if it's going to go in the engine, you want to make sure you take the time to really clean these things out. If it's really bad, in certain cases, you actually need to remove the baffling, because you get sand trapped on the inside of this baffle, and that can destroy your engine. As soon as that sand debris gets into your engine, you're going to start wiping out a lot of stuff. So I like to do the heater core pipes, prevents them from getting rusted, and they just look good. And of course our coil brackets for the factory ignition coils, and keeping it simple. We're not doing anything crazy with the fuel system on this build. So this is the factory fuel line assembly that goes on the intake manifold, throttle cable bracket, and our idle airspeed tube. And then we got this powder coated just in case we're going to reuse it, but this goes on the passenger side of the intake manifold, where the factory O2 sensor and VTC sensor connect. Some of the motor builds that we're working on, this is Alex's VG30. We're actually not doing like a full rebuild. We are replacing bearings, oil pump. We've installed our larger oil pan. Alex does road race. I'm not sure if he's going to continue on, but he'll have that a little better protection with more oil capacity in the trap doors of our oil pan. This is a 96 model year VG. So what does that mean? Basically, it has really terrible camshafts, no VTC, and terrible ECU. So what we're doing is we've installed a set of JWT 500 hydraulic cams, and we're going to be adding VTC function. So we're going to be adding our little pistons, our solenoids, and running an ECU. You know, we can run the early ECU or a standalone, and we can have full VTC function on this engine. Resealing everything while we've got it apart, freshening up all the stuff in the timing belt, BDE cam gears. So we'll be doing the bullseye on the exhaust, and we'll also be doing the intake BDE cam gears on this bad boy. This one's going to get JWT Gen 2 GTX Sport 700s. So those are the 2860s. This thing, we're not looking to go breaking any records with this thing, right? It's still stock connecting rod, so we'll leave this thing comfortably around 600 wheel. Make that power all day long. Have a good time. A lot of power for the street. So we'll be doing the bullseye on the exhaust, and we'll also be doing the intake BDE cam gears on this bad boy. This one's going to get JWT Gen 2 GTX Sport 700s. So those are the 2860s. This thing, we're not looking to go breaking any records with this thing, right? It's still stock connecting rod, so we'll leave this thing comfortably around 600 wheel. Make that power all day long. Have a good time. A lot of power for the street, and this is the one we're doing the nice powder coated bits of black against the sapphire blue Z32 chassis. Yeah, gonna try to wrap this thing up soon, and thank you for waiting, because I'm the one that builds all these motors. So besides doing the tuning, answering phone calls, emails, I do all this. So I wish I could get it done quicker, but quality takes time. Sometimes it takes a little longer than I'd like. So I appreciate my customers and their patience. So thank you guys for waiting. I want to make sure that you get something that's just badass. So don't want to rush it. All right, so let's move over to Ryland. Ryland's, we've got a few of the powder coated heater core pipes on this bad boy. Ryland brought us his valve covers already in this color. These already have been done. This has got a built bottom end, 500 cams. We are looking to be probably making 750, 800 wheel with this one. Gonna have the Polar Engineering top feed fuel rail setup. That's gonna look really, really nice underneath his intake manifold. The intake manifold is gonna be a wrinkled powder coat black on the intake manifold. This one's gonna be running an Elite 2500 from Haltech. It's got the BDE cam gears, both intake and exhaust, and we're running an ATI crank damper on this one, and this one's going to get our specialty Z cam trigger kit. So kit works really well. It's kind of in between the factory CAS and a setup that uses a crank and a cam sensor pickup. We get rid of the inconsistencies in the play and the teeth mesh of where the CAS goes into the drive unit on the cam. So we get away from that. So really simple setup for guys who are running standalones, maybe have their factory CAS cam angle sensor, crank angle sensor going bad. Nice little setup. So this is going to be getting the JWT Gen 2 GTX 2860s as well. And awesome turbo, because you really aren't sacrificing any lag, and you can get to that 800 wheel horsepower with those turbos pretty easily. Up next we have Ben's VR38. Tim from Lynch Mob Racing got us set up with one of his short blocks. We did the heads, basic port and polish, nothing crazy on the head, stock cams, This engine is going to be getting the HKS 900 turbo kit. So it'll be really cool to see what that turbo kit can do with a built motor. It's got a Shep 1K trans. It's already in the car, just waiting on me. Throw this bad boy in, get the turbos on, and then we'll hit this thing with the dyno and we'll see what it does. Excited to see the results of this bad boy. Over here, we've got another 96 model year Z32 doing the same thing as Alex. This is Oscar's VG. So we've gone in on this one. This has an IPP bottom end, one of the last ones that's been made. We redid the heads. We had our local machine shop go through the heads because we're going to go to the trouble of doing the 500 cams. We want to make sure everything was spot on with valve clearance, and ported them up, opened up the ports a little bit more, and adding VTC function to this one as well. So this is getting the JWT Sport 700s, and we'll get this bad boy on the road hopefully very, very soon. So thank you guys. And then of course we have some VQ37s that we're working on as well. So I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag. We might be moving again. I know we just moved a few years ago, but we've outgrown our space, and I want to have a dedicated clean room. This is way better than what I had before, but not as nice. We're doing a lot more quantity of jobs, and to keep up with the level of quality, it's going to be nice to be into a bigger facility. So still be in the same complex, but we're basically going to be adding, almost doubling our space. So that'll be nice. We'll have more lifts, and we'll have that nice clean room to do all this assembly of all these engines. So stay tuned for that, and maybe we'll see the new shop soon. All right, we got a really nice example of a Z32 here. Really cool looking engine bay. Take a look. It's got a really cool orange metallic powder coat with kind of like an electric candy blue powder coating bits on the valve cover, balance tube. Got this bad boy in for a little tuning. Installed the Z-Tronics ZR3 gauge and wideband controller, and it did really well. So this car has the CZP 0G5 turbos, which are essentially a Garrett 2554R turbo. The compressor wheels pulled out of them, and they get upgraded with a billet aluminum compressor wheel from Turbos Direct. So I don't have a direct comparison on this exact setup, because every car's a little bit different and unique. They're rated for 550 horsepower. Today we're just running 91 octane and stock intercooler piping, stock inlet piping. Got our 3-inch downpipes, test pipes, and a B&B catback on this bad boy. Sell-in dual pop translator, 740cc injectors, and here's what we got. Using a Grady boost controller, we got the base boost up from 9 psi, and we've turned it up to 15, and we pushed it up to almost 18 pounds. Not something I normally like to do, but turned it up, didn't hear any knock with our headphones. Usually I advise people just to stick to 15 psi on 91. If it's a nice cool day, you can turn it up on occasion, but it was nice and clean. So hopefully our 91 was better and consistent, but it isn't, unfortunately. That's why going to 85 is the safest thing to do. So here's what we got. 15 pounds of boost, 403 to the tires, 414 foot-pounds, and turned it up to almost 18, peaking at about 4,200 RPM, 420 wheel, and 452 wheel. So again, another good example. It'd be really cool to get this one back in so that we can do our intercoolers, intercooler piping, inlet piping, and see what it does, even just on 91, and then we can do the flex fuel conversion and really max those turbos out. Pretty sure we can get close to that horsepower rating of 550 brake horsepower to the tire with these turbos.